Alrighty, boys. Time has come where I must update you on this truck. 16,000 miles update. So I wanted to share the good, the bad, and as they always say, the ugly. For you curious guys, this is a 32 footer, big Tex. Nothing fancy. Probably the oldest trailer I own at this point. Pulls straight, pulls good. But point of this video is the truck, so let me do a little review. First things first, let me show you the mileage. So it supports the fact that I'm trying to say here. The fact that this bad boy, my good old fella, Bad Larry, like he likes to call it, 16,013 miles. Alrighty, boys. You must, yep, right there. So I was going to address. You must notice there's no digits there, right? Well, the tires that I'm running are factory limited tires, but they're not the OEM tires of this truck. Those sensors got robbed and put into my aftermarket wheels, so that's not an issue with the truck. So just some of you guys are excited to notate that that's not an issue. It's something that's self-inflicted. So these wheels have no sensors. I'm very excited to let's just put it this way. I'm very excited to show you something new that's coming up very shortly, and yes, it has something to do with the wheels and tires. So anyways, first things first, 16,000 miles, what have I ran across? Well, I've mentioned other videos. I'll do a really quick rundown. I've had issues with the vibration on the floor. Some say it's a DEF pump, XYZ. I don't know. It's been resolved. There's some kind of something else kicking on, but it's nowhere as bad. So if you got like a pretty annoying pump kicking in and off every 15-20 seconds, that's what you need. You need to go to the dealership and clear that up. Now, as far as the truck itself, what has failed, and hold on a sec. I think my kiddo needs help. Hold on a sec. All right, I'm back. My baby girl needs some help. What was I talking about? Oh, I was talking about the pump. So go over the issues that I've had, and then I'll do an overall review. So the issues I had was the pump. I mentioned that got fixed by an update. Also, this button failed. May or may not be me, so let's just leave it at that. And that got resolved. Also, let me talk about my experience, man. This is weird, okay? Y'all know what I gotta say about the dealerships and whatnot. So I just decided to take one up. You know, I always say good things about Dishman. Well, boys, I have good news for you. I took my truck to Dishman. I'll find the paperwork, so I'm not just yapping. So I'm looking at the paperwork right now. I just gotta block off some paper, some personal information. So let's close her off. Alrighty, boys, there we go. So let me show you all that the dealership did for me, so you guys know. First things first. What the heck's wrong with my camera? It is not focusing the way I'd like it to. Well, I should get a new camera, I guess. But anyways, I'll read it out to you guys. So the front one saying check and advise brake pedal feels spongy. You know, that is true. That never got resolved. It is what it is. So the bottom line is that the feel is crap, but it functions. You know what I mean? Like you put your foot into it, it really slams on the brakes. But it feels like junk. It feels very spongy. So if you're having issues with that, I've been told good luck. So I don't know what I'm going to do for a fact, but it might be just going to take it up. Someone pulling up behind me. Take up their idea, or my own idea, I should say, not their idea. Their idea was just keep driving it. I want to put a new booster in there, see if anything changes. Because I drove that 19 Mega Cab, and it was different. So I might just take some money out of my pocket and put a new booster in it. I know it's hard for the dealership to throw new parts at it when it's not broken or whatever. They did a vacuum leak, they said, or a vacuum test. Everything's good as far as them, but as far as me, it feels spongy, but it works good. So I guess safety is there, but as far as satisfaction, not so much. But obviously, once again, I do understand them. It's just if they work, they work, right? And the second thing is this one's very important. I did a specific video on it on the downshift. The update really helped me. I wish there was a number I could share with you guys, but yeah, if you own an Aisin and your tranny just jumps, like you tap your brakes and you're pulling along, whatever, tugging along, you're at 15, 1600, and then you tap your brakes and it redlines, you need to update your transmission. Then we had, what else did we have? I'm just going through all the stuff that we have here. So, AC. Oh, yeah, guys, that's something very important, man. That's freaking annoying. I mean, it is annoying when you got a brand new vehicle and it cannot hold its own. So, here's my experience. When things get hot outside, let's all be honest. When things get hot, they get freaking hot. And it's easy to point fingers at an AC system saying it sucks. So, when the vehicle's at a standstill and you're idling and it's 100 degrees outside, I'll let things slide by. It's not as cold as I'd like it to be. I'll leave that alone. But when you're cruising down the road, meaning that the condenser in this point, the heat exchanger, whatever you want to call it, is getting the airflow it needs, and it still can't do it a decent enough job. There's something going on. So I addressed it with the dealership, and guess what they told me? My AC Freon level was low. This thing's never been an accident. There's no reason for it, but I guess Ram sort of gave us the short end to the stick. But they fixed it. AC works. That's very important. I've been asked, and I've seen it come up in a lot of reviews and a lot of forums where people are asking about, hey, XYZ, what's all going on here? So that's very important for me. Once again, I can confirm that they topped off the Freon, and it does good. I won't say it does something crazy as far as freezing your tail off, but it's a solid change in a positive direction, and I'm very happy with it. So that's it. I've mentioned these with you guys. That's about it, as far as the dealership and what they've addressed. So if you're in the Spokane area, you want to visit a dealer, hit up Larry. He's a stand-up guy, and he did what he could. And as I said, my experience with dealerships isn't that great, but I gave him a shot, and I was very happy with him. So that's my guy. As I said, the only thing about the pedal, it still feels spongy. It brakes good, don't get me wrong. When I really get after it, it brakes good, but it doesn't feel very solid. So I know, like for example, Larry can't really go off feelings. He could go off of facts. Hey, it works, great. Scoot on down the road kind of deal. When I addressed the AC, he fixed it. When I addressed the vibration, got fixed. There's still something really minor, but that's different. That's a completely different scenario. So if you're getting something really annoying under there, and I mean like every 20 seconds, clear, night and day clear, black and white clear, that it's just pumps going on and off, that's what it was. Okay, that's it with the problems, and what all that needs to get resolved. Now, let's talk about the actual ownership review of overall globally. As you can tell, this truck's absolutely stock, but the fact that I've added a toolbox. I did add a BMW hitchback here. As far as the toolbox goes, oh shoot, I gotta put the camera down. It's wonderful in here, I know, but this is what I use it for. This is what gets tossed around and saves the day. I've been on 2 rescue missions this week. I don't know what the deal is. Sometimes it's dead and sometimes it goes violent. These are my not top end tools, but these are basic tools that you need to fix something, right? And then my filler neck. Just for y'all curious boys, why do I have this? Is Schaefer's cleaner. I'm still concerned about the CP4. I promised you guys, and I'm supporting the fact I will give you guys a video on the CP4 and what I think about it. So yeah, but that's a video another time. I know, Paul, stay focused, right? I know it's a matter of opinion, but when I was searching for some advice, no one could really answer, right? It depends what you use it for. Toolbox is awesome, but sometimes I wish I had more bed space. It's really weird. You don't really appreciate what you have until you lose it. Once in a blue moon, I'll use my bed, and I guess at that point I should probably be using a little trailer, because I should have taken a picture the way the truck looked today. It wasn't very pretty. It was way overloaded with tires. So anyways, that's that. Let's go under the hood. For the new owners, I've done my own filters. Under the hood are exactly the same as the 18s. It's the rear axle that's different. So if they give you the same exact part for the rear axle as they would for the 13 through the 18s, they give you the wrong part. I have a video on that. Go search it. You'll see what I give all the part numbers in there as well. So as far as under the hood, before I dive into this engine and how I'm freaking in love with this engine, but guys, don't get carried away with that. But I have not done any other services besides an oil change and fuel filters. Okay, that's it. That's all I got to talk about. Now let's talk about the obvious. How does it perform and how does it tow? I vaguely got into it, but I never got back to you guys. What the heck are these guys doing? Man, these guys watch too many things of me towing. Hold on a second, guys. I gotta talk to my kids real quick. All right, back to this video. So as far as servicing, that's it. There's nothing more I could share with you in my experience. Now, as far as the way this 1,000 torque engine performs, oh my goodness, am I impressed. Now, that's hard to say. This thing's all stock, you know, the whole shebang, the whole 9 yards, and fairly hard to impress Paul. But I'll refer vaguely about my video with these engines having lower compression compared to the 850. Yes, I really like what Ram's doing. They're splitting off. So the guys that need the high horsepower and when they need their bragging rights, as people or companies, the big three are building these astronomical numbers as far as towing capability and numbers, power, horsepower wars. They got that side of things covered. Now, when it comes to regular Joe, they have that. So I've talked in another video how the engine's more efficient as far as fuel, but as far as power, man, let me talk about it. So this engine has lower combustion, or not combustion, has lower compression. So what that allows it to pull on lower RPM. Okay, for the engine builders, they get it. You want more boost, you got to lower your compression ratio. This one's at 16 to 2 to 1, and the regular one's at 19. Something's going on with my grill. Hold on a second. So what I was talking about, the low end power, you know, it could pull hills like nobody does business, like nobody else's business. But it's the low end torque. Okay, let's say the 13s through 14s, they would pull solid after 15. This thing is pulling solid under 15, and that's blowing my mind, dude. This thing is like a true warrior. I know it might be a little soon, but I could call this the old 12 valve. I know y'all gonna blow up and be like, okay, Paul, this ain't no 12 valve, but y'all know what I'm referring to. This is a very stout engine. Now follow along what I'm trying to say here. Why is this why am I calling it an old 12 valve? 12 valve was very underpowered. As time came, people found more and more power they could pull out of the 12 valve. Same thing with this. It is, for the setup that it has, it's very underpowered. This thing can handle a lot more power. I'm talking about the cooling, I'm talking about the oil, I'm talking about all that. Because, ooh, someone's getting... What are you guys doing? So, check this out. I was pulling 19,000 pounds, right? Any hills, up hills, or down hills, this thing just warmed up just a hair and boom, right back to cool. Right back to cool. You know, when I was hauling containers, the temperatures weren't not all the way astronomical. And what I'm talking about, the ambient temperatures. When I was towing that, you know, 13,000, guys, it was more like 14 some change, I think. But for a fact, I know it was nowhere less than 13. And the way this engine handled it, and it was like 97, 96 degrees out most of the day, and it did just fine. As I mentioned, the AC did good, you know, with the topped off fan. But this thing did just fine. I was just watching those numbers. And you guys know that I always watch my numbers. I mean, I haven't seen any numbers go really all that high. So, two things that I'm looking for. Performance, overall, how the engine's performing, how it's towing it. But second thing is the numbers. You know, how's it heating up? Like I've just mentioned 2 minutes ago, how well and awesome this thing tows on low end. I'm talking about low end. I'm getting up on the freeway with a third of throttle, and that's a lot of boost, and I'm like 1,100, 1,200, and it's just pulling. I'm not saying I'm rocketing out of there, don't get me wrong. For you boys that know, for you towing boys, you know what I mean by pulling. It has this tractor pull to it, and it just has a linear accelerating factor, and just keeps going and going. Oh, Dave's upset. Rachel isn't playing with him. Hold on a sec, guys. Alright, what was I? Man, kids, I love them, but man, they really drive each other up the walls. And me sometimes too, but I love them. Anyways, as I was saying, it has very linear power. Let's just say the 13 through 18 impressed me a lot. And why I keep referring to this, because a lot of guys are going to try to update and upgrade. So I always throw the comparison in this video. Is it worth it or not? As far as the engine, guys, it's not night and day difference, but it is very impressive. I believe I solely... Hold on a second. Guys, I'm really sorry. My first priority is kids, and I got to take care of them. But anyways, talking about that linear power, I think the best way I could show you is I'm looking at my darn gauge. So this truck, let's say at 1,000 or 1,100. At 1,100, this thing just has the solid pull, right? As we get into the 15, that's the biggest difference. That's where I was referring to the 15. So the 1,000 to 1,500 mark doesn't have that void, and I think this engine could do it. Well, I solely believe this engine can do it because the lower compression. So with that, it could pull on lower RPM, and it just pull. It's just a freight train. You ought to try it. I mean, y'all be saying trucks don't break in. Save that story for someone else. I could tell you with the higher mileage, let's just say the 4,000 to 8,000, I got great fuel efficiency going up, and now with 8 to 16, I got quite the power difference. Oh man. All right, guys, gotta hold on a sec. Gotta take care of my kids. They just can't get along today. All right, so that little bit that I was talking about, guys, I'm really sorry, man. Being a father's #1 priority, so while they're duking it out, I gotta make sure they do it right and fair. So that's that. So that little bit from 1,000 to 1,500, man, it's wonderful. And back to what I was saying, for you guys saying there's no difference, save that tune for someone else. I mean, maybe if you're not working in your truck, the Cummins doesn't have the opportunity to break in or whatever the deal might be. But for a fact, from 4,000 to 8,000, tremendous fuel efficiency increase, okay? From 8,000 to 16,000, not so much fuel efficiency as much as power. I'm noticing more power out of this thing. As I've mentioned 1,000 times already, 13 to 14,000 on the load itself, plus the trailer, which is another 6. So 19 to 20,000 behind this truck, and it just doesn't give a rip. It just keeps plowing. I mean, I was doing what, 68, whatever, somewhere between 65 and 70. I mean, it just plows. It just doesn't care. You know, when the terminology was loosely used, oh, my truck doesn't feel a trailer back there. And I'm talking about the caliper that I'm pulling at, 20,000, just for simplicity reasons. Let's just say 20,000 behind this truck. It is phenomenal. It just doesn't care. And the fact that I'm telling you, this truck, and those numbers, those numbers were coming from a scale. I scaled the truck. Anyways, and that scale was not a cat scale. It was one of them yards, lumber yards or whatever. So I got those numbers. So that's why I'm telling you what I'm telling you. But yeah, dude, it's just freaking phenomenal. The power of this truck, as I said, the verbiage of, or the sentence, oh, my truck doesn't feel a trailer. It's phenomenal. Like, this truck, it feels the trailer. Don't get me wrong. I can't accelerate as a hot rod, but like slow and steady, it just keeps pulling. That's the beauty of it. The Cummins created this new CGI. Cummins has created a new definition of just keep pulling. You know what I mean? The V8s, you need the high RPMs. That's how they're made. That's great. Cummins, in line, let's just say the 18s were putting along pretty good from 15, 1600 to about 22. Had all the power in the world, and it did the job just fine. But you could really feel a difference on this one between 1,000 and 1,500, how it just pulls like a freight train. I'm not saying it dies out after. So the usability of the power is greater. It's wider. So all of a sudden, with the same power, because you could use it down low and up top. This truck has more horsepower up top, but there's no reason to get up there. Seriously, guys, hold on a sec. I think David's crying. Okay, guys, I am really sorry, but we're over. People are in timeout. They gotta figure out their stuff and figure out how to get along. Anyways, I love my kids, man. Sometimes you gotta put your foot down. Anyways, to conclude what I'm trying to say here, besides the aesthetics and the visuals, okay, the 13 to 18 versus the 19s, that's what you're getting. This engine is just phenomenal. If the CP4 hangs in there, meaning if they've changed something, because I've done some research on the CP4s, they have a flaw. It's just dumb why they did what they did and how they designed it. The CP3 is a lot more stout pump. Yeah, I know, surprise, right? That's not the point. The point is it's pretty retarded. The CP4 is built the way it is. It's really upsetting. But hopefully there's some changes that we don't know about, because nobody knows really if Bosch changed up the pump. Doesn't show it, doesn't talk about it, but we're just keeping our fingers crossed that the CP4 will do will have some design changes in them before they throw them in the Cummins, because Cummins really gonna bite the dust like Power Stroke and Duramax did with that CP4. I think Duramax went to another pump. But anyways, as long as the CP4 hangs in there, I think this is an awesome. I know I said awful. I said awful a lot of power is what I wanted to say, but that's not what I'm after. This is gonna make a very awesome, reliable setup, because what they did with the transmission as well. Shoot, it's dark in here. What they did with the transmission as well is very awesome. Like the shift patterns, where before, let's just say the older Aisin, if you wanted to lock it up, you got to select your second gear, so it goes and then locks up second gear. You pull out second, and then you grab third, fourth, fifth, right? If you don't manually select your gears on that, it will not lock up second. On XL, it will do it on diesel. On XL, it won't lock it up, but it'll grab third, fourth, fifth, sixth, right? It'll lock it up. This thing has minimal slip. I mean, it just grabs. I think the first gear is the only one that doesn't lock up, and then second, third. And it locks them up a lot quicker than the previous one. In short, they're locking up they're locking up the gears a lot stronger. And I was doing, I don't know, I don't want to call it abuse, but I was really hammering on this thing. One of the on-ramps yesterday. I just want to see what the transmission's going to do. And it was just like banging gears like nobody's business. I feel like it could handle probably 200 more pounds of torque, because it was just locking up gears so hard and quick. And it was just like, dang, dude. It was just like boom, 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 boom. Like, dude, your 1,000 torque, I felt like the transmission was telling the engine, your 1,000 torque's nothing here. Come on, man. Give me more, So based off of that, I say this tranny is definitely 1,200. I mean, I know I'm pulling numbers out of thin air, but just the feel, the feel I'm getting, the feel of the pants is just, it's locking up so well, it can handle a lot more torque. So got that transmission comparison there for you. So the engine is not just new materials, it's better tuning, it's different tuning, and it's different compression ratio, which allows for the low end. It is beautiful. I mean, I just love that quarter throttle. I mean, the truckers could understand me on this. You know what I mean? You're not boosting like crazy. You're not screaming like crazy. You just give it quarter throttle and just hangs up around 1,500. Grabs gears at 1,300, pulls them out, and then grabs another gear, and then you slow down and holds that gear. And that's how I know that you could go up on the freeway at 1,100. And it's just like, I was a quarter throttle and I gave it a third throttle. And, trying to force it to downshift. No rips given. Just plows out of there. I'm like, dang, this is awesome. And I want to say it was third gear. It was locked up in third. The computer didn't want to downshift into second. Not that I was forcefully downshifting, and it didn't. I was just saying, just me going from a quarter to about third throttle, and it just gave me a little bit more boost. Seemed like more timing and more fuel, and off I go. It's just phenomenal. I mean, you clearly could tell in this video how excited I am and the potential these engines have. I bought this truck because I don't rely on anyone. Not that I don't rely on anyone, that's an understatement. That's not properly verbiage there, but I don't count on anyone doing any homework for me. So when this engine was coming out, for you new guys, I was perfectly happy with my 14. So the only reason I got a 19 was because of the engine. That's it. My 14, same color and whatnot. So making it very clear that I owned a 14, and for the new guys, I've owned multiple 4th gens. So we got the 4th gens figured out. I want to get the 5th gen. So far, I'm very excited about it, and just stock 100% form. The kind of power this thing just has blows my mind. So yeah, boys, that's it. Oh shoot, it's 24 minutes. This is a long video. Anyways, I put a lot of emphasis on the engine because I myself, as a consumer, very concerned. My number one reason why I bought this darn engine was to figure out the engine for myself, and then before I started buying these vehicles for the fleet, I knew what I was getting into. So yeah, so far nothing to complain about. All the problems I've had, I mentioned them. You know, you're in Spokane area, stop by Dishman, talk to Larry. That's crap. Look at that. Already sagging out for whatever reason. Alrighty, boys. Yep, 16,000 miles. Great miles. Nothing but happiness. I gotta underline one last thing. I'll wrap up this video. It rides a lot better. That's not an understatement when the engineer said some high number saying it'll ride better at 3500s. For a fact, it does ride much better. It's much softer, smoother, quieter, and all the shebang. So yeah, if you're looking for a softer ride, it's definitely it. Anyways, exciting news coming for this truck very soon. And as always, may the Lord bless you. May all Almighty find day. Ciao, bye.